Hello, this is National Chess Master R. Rats at chess.com. I'm here with a game submission into my Post Your Best Games of Chess thread, and this one's extremely interesting. It wasn't posted in the thread, but this gentleman, Alexei, has been a student of mine for some time, and he has benefited from countless of video analysis games from me. So I'm happy to say Alexei was pretty much stuck at 1400 for a long time until he started taking lessons from me. And he tried lessons with a few other coaches here and never went anywhere. And essentially everything he got from me clicked. And he hasn't been taking lessons for a while, but obviously his standard rating is up. He's gained a solid 200 rating points. And he's not a perfect player yet. He's definitely better than he was. He has potential to get better. It's just basically the work he puts into it. So I will attempt to continue here with this freebie and give him some encouragement and suggestions on how to improve his game. Now, I do know this particular opponent. I had covered a number of games he'd played, and I suggested he play this guy more often because Alexei has his number. And he certainly got it this game. This is a pretty entertaining little game. It's not perfect. We don't expect that, but we want to try to find ways to better your play and how to take advantage of mistakes from your opponent. And the way this particular thread has evolved, it's making me a better coach, and I'm focusing more on teaching you guys how to analyze. And I just give a sample variation or two with some suggestions, and then you can sit down at the chessboard and try and solve some of these things on your own, because I could make a 10-hour video out of this, and who wants to watch that? And I want to be able to make more of these, so let's just see what happens, okay? We'll get into the nitty-gritty. Alexei likes to use this London system. That's with the bishop going to f4. And it's kind of a slow play. White doesn't really get any huge tangible advantage, but he does get his pieces developed, and that's the one thing I stress. You got to get your pieces out, and that's exactly what this system does. And here, I believe black commits a strategic error. Okay, black castle's long. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, one thing you see at this rating level, you see a lot of games where both sides opposite castle, and then they launch some kind of an attack against each other's king. But at this stage, the reason that it's premature, I think, is because the white king hasn't committed castling. Sometimes if you want to opposite side castle, you let the other guy castle first, okay? And then when he's committed, then you commit. And then if you don't want opposite side castling, you can always castle the same side as he. So, as I say, black castles, but let's just look at a possibility of what I'm talking about. Let me try to explain this better. Okay, we know that if both sides castle, there's going to be a pawn storm. So let's delay it. Let's just play a developing move for black. And this is how I analyze. I don't just and want you folks to learn to analyze. I just don't pick a move like h5 right now. That's premature. White hasn't castled yet. I try to find a developing move, and e6 opens up this diagonal for this bishop. Okay, let's do the same thing for white. Let's develop a piece. Let's put the bishop. Where do we want to put it? Let's just put it on d3. It could go to e2. It could go to b5. We're just going to put it on d3, just for the sake of this discussion. Now black plays bishop d6, bishop e7. Yeah, he could play bishop d6 and offer a trade. Then white certainly can't bring his knight in d5. He could if he had his bishop on e2, but we're beyond that. We're trying to make a point here. Now, look at the position. Neither side has castled yet. If white castles now, black has an interesting choice. He can castle queenside and signal that we're both going to launch attacks against each other's king, or he can just play it safe. He can castle kingside too. Okay, and both are perfectly good moves as long as you follow up with what you're supposed to do. if black castles long in this position, castles queenside, then it's only natural what's going to happen is white's going to launch his pawns up the board, try and shift pieces over the queen side, get stuff on the open files, open up some lines, and try to attack the enemy king. And black is going to pretty much do the same thing on this side of the board. Try and get his pawns and stuff moving up the board and see what he can do. Now, I'm not going to illustrate this any further. You just have to get some practical experience playing this type of game. And if you play these standard games, did I mention the time control? They played a 20-minute time control with a 10-second increment. So it's easy to get games at this time control. It's a little quick as opposed to what you should be playing if you're going to get into standard chess, but if you want to get a lot of games in and just get some practice where you do think a little bit, they're not bad time controls. My recommendation, if you want longer time controls, is either go to your club or look right here in our thread in the forums to arrange standard games. There's a whole bunch of people that have given their information. I don't know who's playing who. Nobody's told me. But you can look at the players, his availability time, his rating. If he's kind of near your rating or a little higher than you and you want to get a little practice, or if you're a little higher than him and want to give him some practice, set up some games, make friends, and go for it. It basically is free. It just takes your time. You don't have to drive to the club. Some of you don't even have a club nearby you, although you should be able to find one. Anyway, that's kind of the point of this discussion here. If you're going to opposite side castle, it's best to wait, not rush into it, because let's just go back now, and I've talked about what I had to say. Wait, let's get up to where he castled. I went too far back. Okay, instead of playing e6, as I said, black castled. Now, what's wrong with it? Aside from the fact that I said that it's early and white hasn't set his attention. He hasn't set his intentions. Hasn't made them known yet. Well, what actually happens in this game, which is very interesting, is white never castles. Okay, that's not always the best strategy, but we'll talk about it when we get there. But black is left there without a target. I mean, he kind of makes a target. You will see. But white never commits to where he's going to castle. Plus, it's possible, I'm not saying it's the best move, but it's certainly playable. It's possible that white doesn't want to get attacked on the king side. He wants to castle on the queen side too. And then both sides kind of look silly. Normally, they're going to castle king side in this position, and instead they've castled queen side. But there's one little advantage that white has over black here, even if white does castle, and that's the fact that this square and its counterpart on the other side, that's a square you want to get a pawn to attack a knight. Well, right now, black has a bishop occupying that square, so that bishop's going to have to move for black to eventually get this in with effect. And it's white's move, and he delays castling and plays b4. Okay, now what this does is this shows his intention is to push the queenside pawns and try and open up some lines. So what does black do? Okay, black solves the problem of no pawn of the bishop occupying that square that he wants to get a pawn to by giving up the bishop pair. So right now, as a result of this, white has gained a considerable concession from black. Okay, white's better developed. White's got his dark squared bishops on a nice diagonal pointed at the king. The other bishop has a nice free diagonal. Black still is not ready to support this g5 advance unless he gambits a pawn to open up a line, which entails its own risks. If your attack doesn't work, you're down a pawn. Black has to still build up for it, and at the same time, white is not castled. So black doesn't really have a target yet, but white has one in his sights. And here black commits a fundamental error. He needs to continue what? His development. He needs to get this bishop in play. so that the rooks are connected, so they can. So if white does castle kingside, black can get his pawns going. So black commits a fundamental error. He moves a piece twice in the opening. Okay? Now, it's a good square for the knight, yes, and it doesn't cost black the game, but it makes the black game a little harder to play because he's not developed. What else is developed here? This knight on c6 is about to get attacked. It doesn't have direct way over to the king side to try to attack the white king if he will castle king side. Okay? And all this does is it threatens a pawn. Now, white's going to see that, and he does. He just simply develops his queen and develops his queen and covers the weakness on c3. Now black violates things again. Okay, he needs to play e6. He doesn't. He plays queen g4. Now we already talked about that square. That was a square a pawn needs to go to. Now the queen's in the way. So white's gained a little bit already. What is black threatening? Nothing. All he's doing is tying this bishop down to guarding this pawn. Okay? That's all he's doing. And who knows, white might even be able to gambit that pawn. Develop this bishop, let him take it, and then chase the queen out. But white doesn't need to. White's got his attack ready to go. And as I said, we'd talk more about it. The white king is actually quite safe on e1. How is black going to get at it? The answer is he isn't. His pieces aren't coordinated to put an assault on the white king. Okay, so this drives the knight to the side of the board where it doesn't have a great deal of scope, but it is helping out in case the white attack does get a little out of hand here. It is nearby, can possibly help out. Okay, so now white comes up with a threat. Now white hasn't developed his bishop, but maybe he doesn't want to. White comes up with a threat, attacks the queen, improves the position of the knight, and it also is attacking this pawn on f7. What black needs to do is play queen e6. Then white can go about his business. He can start considering candidate moves like queen a4. The idea being if b6, we've got a hole here, then maybe we can try and drive this knight out of there. You know, get the knight into c6 or push c4, open up the c file. Maybe finally develop this bishop and get castled so this rook can come into play. And meanwhile, the black attack hasn't even started yet. Look at these four pawns. They're all where they started. Look at this bishop. It can't move. These rooks aren't connected. The black attack is several moves away. White's got plenty of time to do things, and he does. Okay? So now black blunders. He just kind of blunders the game away. And now white is basically achieving a decisive material advantage. But these are the things that happen at this rating level. Even if black had played correctly, putting the queen on e6, white has a lot of promise, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. We'll look at maybe one or two possible lines, but I want to show what happened here, because now this is just obviously a no-brainer. Knight takes f7, forking two rooks, and now this bishop still can't move, so black's in trouble. So what does he do? Black decides to counterattack. Now, white comes up with a very interesting move here. Theoretically, it's not the best move, but it's a move he can afford to get away with, simply because he's going to be a rook ahead here. What's logical is just to play bishop back to g3, and if knight takes bishop, you just take back with the f-pawn with a tempo on the queen, and then you're free to take this rook. And yeah, the rook may get lost, or the knight may be lost, but white will still have material advantage. But what white does is a very interesting move, and tactically speaking, it's not the best move. Positionally speaking, it's an excellent move. Now, when I say tactically, well, tactically is not the best word. Tactically, it is a good move because it creates a lot of possibilities. Materialistically, it's not the best move because it gives up some material that you didn't have to. But it's very ingenious. Bishop takes c7. It threatens a rook and opens up and exposes the enemy king. And it's a luxury white can do simply because he's so far ahead of material. So black needs to take, and now white grabs the rook. Now what black needs to do is try to figure out how to keep that knight at bay. One way, knight d6, and that's probably not a bad move. It reinforces c4. Black may be able to plop a knight in there, and he'll be able to keep it. The other one in combination is queen h5. That covers the knight's retreat. So like I say, those were better moves, and it kind of exposes the flaw with giving up the piece. But black's just not capable of, wasn't capable of rising to the challenge and made another mistake. But let me illustrate those, because positionally they make a lot of sense. This move, knight c4 or knight d6, will eventually prepare a knight going to c4. Not just yet. Now, what does white do? Well, what I always say is, if you're going to analyze variations, develop. Okay. Let's put the bishop on d3. Okay. Now, what's black going to do? Does he want to give up this pawn, and does white want to take time to win it? Well, let's suppose black instead just says, heck with the pawn. I want, that'll give me an open file if you take it. So for instance, if bishop takes, I'll take with the rook, and if you castle, all I have to do is drive that bishop out of there, and I'm threatening it with rook and queen on, and I'll mate you. So white's probably better to serve not taking the pawn on h7, and then black logically comes up with rook takes h8. Now what's white going to do? Okay, no matter how you slice it, black is able to get a knight into c4, and black will keep one there for the duration. So this is the materialistic flaw with giving up the bishop. That knight's has got a wonderful outpost, and black does have two pieces for the rook here. Okay, so let's see. White has 7 pawns. Black has 6. Black's close to having an equal game. So bishop takes c7 was bold, but black missed some potential play. Now, why is this easy for me to see? Well, let's go back and I'll explain. Why is this easy for me to see, you might ask? Okay. Oh, take. See, it's easy for me to see simply because I understand the concept of outposts and weak squares, and also I look at this knight and I got to cut it off. How can I, if this knight gets out, black's just down big, okay? I've got to keep that knight from getting out. And there's only 2 moves that stop it. Queen h5 and knight d6. But the bonus is if I visualize the knight going to d6, I say, gee, look at this. Both knights are headed for c4. That's a terrific outpost to have. Both knights are going to be getting to c4. White can get rid of one knight with his bishop, but then my knight's there for the duration. And the only way you're going to get rid of it is if you give up a rook for it. So it's easy for me to see simply because I understand what you try to achieve here. You've lost a rook in the corner. You got to trap the knight. How do you trap it? You cut off its squares with your pieces. That's all. That's how you see. That's how you trap a piece. You cut off its retreat. So queen h5 or knight d6 are automatic moves for me to see, and they should be for you. Okay. I'm not doing anything special here. All I'm doing is following a logical plan. The position says we've got to get that knight. How can I do it? Anyway, black plays bishop g7, and now it's unfortunate the knight now is able to get out, and black has thrown his game away. But he's got a plan here. He wants to pile up on f2. Okay, and it looks logical to do this, because when the knight moves, well, I'm going to get a rook down to f2. So what does white do? White basically shows he has it all under control. Might want to pause the video and see if you can solve this. It's a very nice continuation by white. Okay, you resume the video. c4. Now how much of this white saw? I don't know. It maybe just walked into it. But here he's giving up another piece. Remarkable. But it's not all that remarkable if you analyze. Now we'll look at some variations here in a minute. When I say analyze, if you're playing, you have to be able to consider a move like c4. Now, what makes you consider a move like c4? Well, you know that if you move the knight out of there, you're going to rook takes f2 as a killer. Okay, so that helps find a move like c4. But the other thing about c4 is it sets up some attacking chances against that exposed black king. Now the value of sacrificing that bishop on c7 is showing up. So what does black do? Unless he takes this knight, this white attack could get out of hand really quick. So black takes the knight, but the attack is on. And these are easy continuations to analyze, because there's basically one move in each. If you can find c4, you can visualize this position. Now the black king's in check. He's got to get out. Now, we've got problems on f2. So white deals with it. How do you deal with it? Pause the video. Well, I hope you came up with g3, because that drives the queen away. And it helps shield f2 from action. Black cannot afford to take on f2 with his rook, because white will just play queen takes rook, and this queen remains under attack. So black moves his queen out of danger. Now black still has the threat of rook takes f2, but white's opened up lines, and boom, here's an easy move to see. Rook c1. Okay? Now, threatens mate in 1 on the move. So really, it doesn't matter what black does. He's pretty much stewed here. What can black do? Throw a knight in the way? Just give black or white a killer pass pawn? Throw this knight here first? Now you just take it with the queen. So black tries to defend matters with knight d6, but this just fails. White has a nice combination. Okay, pause the video. White to play. Okay, resume the video. Well, there's an old saying, always check, it might be mate. And it is a nice check. It, for one, attacks the king. Excuse me. It also attacks this knight on a5. But white's after more game. Black has one move, so this is an easy position to analyze. Now look at what white has. Pause the video if you can't see it. Okay, you've resumed the video. White just has a checkmate now. Knight check, or queen check, followed by checkmate. So it's a very, very nice combination that white played. Very, very interesting continuation. He got the knight out. Black played to trap that knight and have pressure on f2, but how many people would find c4 and be willing to give up that knight? Was it desperation, or was it his ability? Well, I think it's his ability, because I know I've been working with Alexei for some time, quite a bit. He plays a lot of games. He's getting experience, and you can too. And you just got to get out there and play. The games are waiting there to be had. If you find him, play him. You know, he's a member in the video lessons group. He's a member in the Rat Pack. He's often in live chess. Get a game with him. Real nice guy. You'll have fun playing him. You know, he's like anybody. He'll have his bad days. Like I say, some days you're the artist, and some days you're the canvas. But this is a product of Alexei's ability is a product of him working with me. That's it. And anyone that submits a video for this, you get one example of me working with you. And you know, unfortunately, I'd have to charge you for more. But hey, free lesson, you can't go wrong. But just for people that wonder what private lessons can do, well, this is an example. And also, it's the determination of him to play well. And I've seen a lot of his games, and by far this is this is the best one I've seen. He's had some nice attacks. He's had some nice attacks conducted against him, but just the way he did these two sacrifices, just simply amazing. Black had better resources at his disposal. Let's go back and just look at him for a minute. Let's consider again the move that I suggested. Instead of bishop g7, I was saying knight back to d6. So what did I say? White develops. Okay, then black goes after it. Then what's white do? Castle. You take the rook. Now, there's really not anything white can do to keep black out of c4. So I'm going to try it a different way. I'm going to try to break with e4 and take away any support you might have. Let's see if this goes anywhere. Just trying a different plan. See, I'm finding this because I knew that black had a knight into c4, so I'm trying to take that possibility away. Okay. Now this kind of gets rid of one of the anchors, but black can reinforce here. Now this basically, what does this do? Well, it opens up another line for white. Now maybe white puts his rook here. This is just a sample line, threatening a check. So how does black handle that? Well, maybe he has to bring his queen back. Okay, now white's got a little nuisance value going. Let's bring this rook in. We're going to get chased. Knight c4 is coming. White's done about all he can. Go back to the move I suggested. Now we bring this in, and maybe you play here. And black just tucks his king back in the corner. Now, just for the sake of illustration, let's take this off. Now let's double up the rooks. Okay, but black doesn't have to fear too much. Well, let's get this pawn rolling. Just a sample line. Now, do you want to play double the rooks and give up this pawn? Maybe not. Let's try this. And here. And here. Now we're threatening to bring the rook in, but we have this bishop that can stop things. Black surviving. You know, it's still a game. Queen here to pin the bishop. Keep some pressure on d5. You know, worthy of analysis. Sit down and try to solve what's happening in each position. Each one of these positions, who knows what's happening until you sit and analyze it, just like I did. This is just one line. There's countless lines. Okay, let's go back to the moment black castled. And I said I would come back to that. Let me back up a little bit more. Okay. Let's consider developing instead of doing what he did. Instead of taking off f3, let's just consider developing. What can black come up with? Okay, b5. We're going to do this anyway. At some point, white probably is going to castle and allow the attack, but the difference is I'm making developing moves for black, not making exchanges and moving his pieces around a lot. Okay, let's break the pin this time. Now, do we want to oppose bishops? Yeah, let's oppose them this time. That's a good diagonal. How's white going to handle it? Maybe bishop back here to g3. Okay, well, boom, h5. Getting ready to attack. Will white try c4 here? Maybe he'll try queen a4 first. Okay, let's bring this rook over. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and castle white. But notice what I've done for black. I've made developing moves. I didn't waste time moving pieces twice. I'm just seeing what's here. Now let's go for c4. Okay, h4 takes. Take here. c5, bring the queen back. Now you can't play b6. You can play c6, or you can play rook c1 supporting c6. But notice here, black's getting some kind of an attack going. Just one possible line of many. c6. Wait, it's black's move. Knight e4 here. Now c6. Now maybe what black does is let the... Oh, wait. How long has a5 been hanging? Oh, my God. Okay, back it up. It's been hanging for a long time. Queen a4. Oh, my God. Okay. I was talking to Alexei just before this. I said, I'm tired, but I'll make the video. Okay, we got to spend a tempo with b6. Okay, now we castle. We're going to prepare c4. And here comes the black pawns. Here goes the white pawns. Okay, let's go here. Now take and take. Now we get c5 in. You can't take with the pawn because this knight's going to hang. So queen here. Oh, look. I don't know if this is going anywhere. Now we play knight b3. And invite him to open up the A file and let our queen come in here. You know, who knows? It's something you can sit and analyze. But all I did was make developing moves for black. That's all I did. And when you make developing moves, your pieces have more potential. It's that simple. Black moved his pieces, too few of them, and he moved them too quickly without getting his whole army in play. And there's a lot of rating points to be had down at this level, because this is how 1400s play at chess.com. Okay? They can be taken advantage of. If you're rated there, you can be taken advantage of. But you won't be if you develop your pieces. And that's what I stress in my video lesson 1. It all goes back to that basic. I got to repeat it because you got to remember it. Correct your weaknesses. If development is one of your weaknesses, correct it. Get your pieces out. This will keep you from getting bad games and thus keep you from losing games. Therefore, you're going to start winning more games than you used to. You're going to gain rating points. Your rating is going to go up. Now, instead of Alexei having to play somebody within like 200 points, he can play someone or around his rating, and he can play someone 1644 up to 1700 pretty easily. Now, chances are they're better than he is, but he's going to gain experience playing them. And you're going to gain more experience playing a 1700 player, even if you lose, than you are winning a game like this. Although it was a wonderful game, you know, it's just impressive. Yeah, there's going to be flaws. I make flaws in my games, but it's just a level of flaws. But bold and daring play on White's part. Look for his opponent too. Maybe you'll find him in live chess. Now you know something about how he plays. Maybe you can get some rating points off of him yourself. Okay, that concludes this video. I could go on another hour, but I'm not. I'm out of gas. I've just about said what I want to say. Wonderful, wonderful game, Alexi. I'm just super impressed and my smile is a mile wide. Keep at it. All right. Thanks everyone for their time, and I hope you're watching these videos because they'll teach you more than you'll learn in any chess book or any other video. These are the best. This is quality. Okay. Thanks again for your time. Take care.